I never knew my son was waiting. Until I saw him at the bus stop, and my heart stopped. The world around me blurred to nothingness as I stood frozen, heart racing, palms clammy. It felt like I was trapped in a dream where reality warped itself into something unrecognizable. Was that really him? The boy with a worn backpack slung over one shoulder, shifting nervously from foot to foot? Something familiar flickered beneath his unkempt hair, like a fading photograph of my long-lost hope. There he was, on a drizzling gray afternoon, the sky weeping as if the heavens themselves grieved for the years stolen from us. My breath hitched, a painful lump forming in my throat. But he didn't see me. Why didn't he turn? I yearned to call out his name, but my voice was swallowed by the clamor of the city, the honking horns, the distant chatter, all blending into a haunting cacophony that echoed the abandonment I felt that I imagined the last time I had seen him, his tiny hands waving goodbye as he stepped into the arms of an unknown future, while I stood helpless, longing to hold him close. The weight of that memory weighed heavy as I watched the boy, still no taller than my waist, shift his gaze anxiously down the street. Did he remember me? Would he even recognize me? The thought twisted my insides, tearing me apart. I hadn't known that this moment would come, that fate would bring us together here. What if I walked towards him? Would he run into my arms? Or would he just turn away, filled with the shame of a past he couldn't escape? Every second ticked by like a thundering heartbeat. My feet felt glued to the ground as I battled the urge to scream. To release the volcano of emotions brewing inside me. A gust of wind whisked through the street, sending a shiver down my spine. I could see others waiting at the bus stop, strangers shifting in the rain, oblivious. But he seemed disconnected from them, as if the rest of the world faded away. I needed to move, to cross the distance between us, but my legs felt like lead. What if the moment passed? What if I lost him again, just like I lost him before? My chest tightened. I saw him look up, green eyes sparkling with innocence, unaware of the cruel twist of fate that had kept us apart. Moments stretched, pulling me towards him with an invisible thread. Just as I took a step forward, a loud rumble of thunder split the sky. His head snapped in the direction of the sound, and for a fleeting instant, our eyes met, two worlds colliding, my heart surging with both desire and fear. Before I could breathe, he turned and started walking away. No! My heart plummeted. I had to do something, but what? I could see the weight of his past hanging over him, like dark clouds threatening a storm. It felt like a race against time. One moment could alter everything. In the distance, the bus approached, headlights cutting through the dusk. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The bus loomed ever closer, its silhouette growing in size, consuming the weary figures huddled beneath the awning. My heart raced as he turned, each step pulling him further away from me. No, I gasped, the word barely leaving my lips, swallowed by the din of the traffic. I pushed through the jumbled thoughts in my mind, seeking the courage buried deep within me. I was about to call out to him, to unleash the torrent of emotions that had built up over the years, but instead, my feet remained stuck to the pavement. A combination of fear and disbelief paralyzed me. What if I startled him? What if he didn't want to see me? The thought of rejection clawed at my heart, wrapping around it like a vice. Just as the bus doors swung open, another figure caught my eye. An older woman, her small frame dwarfed by a massive umbrella, stepped into the boy's path. She smiled at him, radiating a gentle warmth wrapped in kindness. It struck me like a bolt of lightning. Here was a stranger reaching out, offering comfort to the boy who looked as lost as I felt. "Why don't you come under here?" she asked, tilting her umbrella to shield him from the rain. He paused, his green eyes darting toward the bus, then back to the woman. A fleeting moment hung in the air, and for a heartbeat, it felt like time stood still that I could only watch, my heart throbbing with every passing second. The boy hesitated, his frame trembling as he considered her invitation. My breath caught in my throat. How could this woman, this kind soul, see the depth of his sorrow, while I was paralyzed by my own shame? Then, as if the world had conspired to orchestrate this moment, he moved closer to her. I saw him for the first time. He wasn't just a silhouette. His face showed the remnants of a childhood filled with questions, laughter, and perhaps unseen burdens too heavy for his small shoulders. The glimmer of hope in his eyes tugged at my heart. Was I too late, or could there be a chance? He stepped into the shelter of her umbrella, and the warmth of her smile seemed to send a flicker of courage through him. I could feel the air between us throbbing with unspoken connections, the kind only a mother, no matter how estranged, would know. Before I realized it, I was moving. Clumsily, I stumbled forward, my legs finally responding to the urgency in my heart. I could see him now so close, yet still so far. I called out, voice wavering, "Wait." The boy turned, wide-eyed, his expression shifting from confusion to recognition. Everything inside me screamed to reach him, to bridge the aching chasm years had built. My hand reached out instinctively, desperate to grasp his. But in that moment, the woman glanced at me, assessing, standing as a barrier for my long-lost child. "Do you know him?" She asked kindly but firmly, her eyes searching mine for the truth. I felt exposed, tugging at the frayed edges of honesty, battling doubt and disbelief. "Yes," I said, my voice cracking like ice beneath a heavy weight. "I am his mother." Each word felt monumental, as though I was revealing a truth I had buried deep for far too long. The boy stood frozen, searching my face as if trying to comprehend the impossible. I could see the storm of emotions building within him, to the recognition, uncertainty, anger, perhaps even hope. It terrified me to look into his eyes. I was scared of what I would find. I did not want him to think of me as the ghost of his past, merely a fleeting memory, but before I could utter another word, the woman took a step back, allowing space between us. "If you truly are his mother," she said slowly, "then you need to be sure this is what he wants." The words crashed over me like the relentless rain, forcing me to confront the reality of his choice, ripping apart my illusions. Who was I to assume he would welcome me back? The years had created a wound too deep for an easy fix. He turned slightly, glancing back toward the bus, and I felt a surge of panic. I reached out, breathless. "Please, don't go. Just give me a chance to explain." But the moment hung heavy with tension. He hesitated, looking from the woman to me, caught in the unbearable weight of two worlds pulling at him. In that instant, it became clear I had either lost him once again or opened the door to our reconciliation. Then, the unthinkable happened. With a sudden clarity, he took a slow step back toward me, his voice barely a whisper above the rain. "Why did you leave?" And just like that, the heavens opened, and the rain began to pour in earnest, drenching us both. My heart, once clenched in fear, now expanded with a bittersweet mix of heartache and elation. We had reached a place of confrontation, but I was still unprepared for the storm of feelings that would follow. As the bus doors began to close, I realized this was our moment. It could go one of two ways. Would we stand together in the storm, or would he turn away, seeking refuge in the fading distance, while the door closed on our hope? The bus pulled away into the chaotic streets, taking with it the chance for answers, leaving behind only the echo of our unresolved pasts, lingering in the rain-soaked air. In that moment, standing before him, I realized I had to find a way to break through the storm before it was too late. The rain fell in relentless sheets, drenching everything around us, but it wasn't the cold water that made my skin prickle, it was the electric tension lingering in the air. I felt like a swimmer fighting against an undertow, with desperation dragging me into the depths. My heart thudded painfully in my chest as I stood before him, grasping for words that felt heavy and foreign on my tongue. "Why did you leave?" His question cut through the chaos, leaving an aching void that begged for an answer, a truth I had hidden away beneath layers of guilt and regret. The hurt in his voice shattered any facade I might have clung to. Where was the bravery I had imagined? This wasn't a fairy tale reunion, it was raw, painful, and unfiltered. That I didn't want to. I finally spoke, my voice trembling like the fragile python of a butterfly unfolding its wings. I thought I was doing what was best for you. I thought I could provide a better life, but I stumbled, choking on the weight of my own words. I had rehearsed my explanation countless times in my mind, yet now, standing before him, it all felt pathetic. That he took a step back, the distance between us a reminder that scars visible or not had been left behind. The way his brow knitted together hinted at a storm brewing within him. Best for me? He repeated, disbelief lacing his voice. You didn't want me. No. I cried, feeling the desperate tears blurring my vision. I wanted to give you things I couldn't. I thought, I faltered, slumping my shoulders against the weight of my honesty. I thought it would be temporary, and then the storm in my heart bubbled over, spilling out remorse like raindrops, unrelenting and fierce. Then I lost my way. Lost your way, he echoed, the disbelief cutting deeper than I had anticipated. Is that really all it was? I saw the anger simmering just beneath the surface, and I understood that my words might ignite it into a greater fire. Questions loomed larger than the pouring rain. The anger swelled, not just at me, but at the years lost, the moments robbed of him, tainted with shadows from my past. Unexpectedly, the old woman who had once been our unlikely guardian stepped forward, her umbrella still sheltering the boy from the rain. She quietly extended her hand to him, almost like a force of certainty in a storm of confusion. Maybe you should listen to her. Her voice, though soft, held a steady strength. What she feels runs deeper than you know. I turned to her, a mix of gratitude and desperation flooding through me. Couldn't she see how impossible it felt to bridge the chasm of 10 lost years? In a moment that felt like an eternity, he glanced again at the bus station in the distance, the spot where the heavy metal doors had sealed away his dreams of resolving the past. But the kindness emanating from the woman's gentle presence anchored him, giving a thread of hope to cling to. I reached deep within myself, needing to fight the tremors of my vulnerability. I stepped forward, steadying my gaze on him. You're so brave, I told him, voice catching slightly. I lost my way, and I don't expect you to forgive me or even understand right now. But I want you to know that I think about you every single day. Every moment. I may have walked away, but you never left my heart. I've always carried you with me. He shifted uncomfortably, as if my words laden with sorrow were too much to bear. The shadows in his eyes flickered, revealing a struggle that mirrored my own. What do you think this is? He asked quietly, frustration warring with yearning. You just show up. After all this time? No. I'm here because I want to be, I pleaded, each word crafted from the fragments of my heart. It's terrifying for me, too. I never thought I'd have a chance to tell you how much I regret everything. Please just let me try to take a step forward. Silence enveloped us, punctuated only by the rhythmic patter of rain, but I sensed a crack in his wall, a glimmer of a possibility that maybe, just maybe, he could see beyond the hurt I had caused. Just then, a voice shattered the stillness. You both have to stop standing in the rain. It was a stranger, a young girl, perhaps no older than 13, passing by us with a concerned look on her face. She held an extra umbrella, clearly not meant for her alone. Here. She called, approaching us with a gentle smile. You both look like you could use this more than me. For a flicker of a moment, the warmth of her kindness wrapped around us, breaking through our shared anguish. As I accepted the umbrella, I felt a spark of hope generated from the most unexpected source, reminding me of the unexpected acts of grace that could pierce through even the darkest storms. But just as I felt that glimmer of hope ignite, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket, unwelcome and jarring against the tender moment. I fished it out, seeing my mother's name flashing across the screen, a somber reminder of the life I had tried to escape but couldn't. Her voice in my head, warning of the consequences of my choices. Do you need to get that? My son asked hesitantly, the tension returning like a thick fog. My heart sank as the fear of having that conversation loomed overhead, mixed with the sudden realization that me being here was fracturing everything I had worked toward rebuilding within me. Maybe I started, my voice trailing off as dread surged through me. Uncertainty fogged my thoughts, tangled with the thread of hope I had fought so hard to ignite. And in that moment of indecision, I understood that the weight of what lay beyond this street corner was greater than I could have imagined. All of a sudden, I wondered if a happy ending was a thing of the past, lurking on the fringes of every choice I might make. As the rain poured down, and the girl with the umbrella walked away, I faced the boy I had lost, the boy who waited for me to be brave, believing that sometimes it only takes one step to face the storms ahead. Yet at that moment, uncertainty loomed larger than the promise of healing, and I could only hope I wouldn't lose him a second time. The rain continued its relentless assault, each drop a reminder of time lost, of moments slipped between fingers like sand. I glanced at my son, his eyes a turbulent sea of hurt and confusion, and felt the walls I had carefully constructed around my heart begin to crumble. The umbrella shielded us from the downpour, but it felt like a flimsy barrier against the emotional tempest swirling between us. Do you want to answer it? He asked again, eyes flickering towards my phone, still buzzing incessantly. The air held an electric tension, I could practically see the unresolved feelings hanging between us like a thick fog. I stood at the threshold of a decision, one that would either lead us toward the light or deepen the shadows. Just give me a moment, I whispered, fighting against the tide of fear that threatened to pull me under. I had always known I would have to confront my past eventually, but I never anticipated doing it in the pouring rain, standing face to face with the son I had abandoned. I inhaled deeply, the cold air biting at my lungs, each breath laced with trepidation. With trembling hands, I silenced my phone, the sudden stillness amplifying the static in the air. The moment hung there, fragile and exposed, each heartbeat echoing our shared silence. In that pregnant pause, I could see him grappling with the turmoil inside. An uncertainty flickered behind his eyes, the kind that birthed questions I had failed to answer. I know I made a choice that hurt you, that robbed you of so much, I ventured softly. But I want to be here now, if you'll let me. The words spilled out, genuine and raw, tethered to a hope that felt so fragile it could break with a careless touch. That he turned away, arms crossed tightly over his chest, and I could see the conflict raging within him. Do you really think that's enough? His voice trembled, and I knew it was layered with anger. The frustration that had simmered within him now bubbled to the surface, and I wanted nothing more than to take away the pain I had caused, to heal wounds that ran deeper than I could fathom. I don't know, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. But I want to try. I'm right here. As the rain continued to fall, a sense of defeat washed over him, his shoulders sagging as if the universe itself had pressed down upon him. You don't get it, do you? He replied bitterly. You can't just come back and expect everything to be okay. I've built a life without you. What are you expecting from me? Maybe he was right. I had no idea what I was truly asking from him. The longing for reconciliation felt like a dream, beautifully unrealistic. The warmth of hope I had felt moments ago flickered, giving way to a cold, harsh reality. But before I could respond, the stranger from earlier still hanging nearby stepped closer. You know, she began, her voice gentle but firm, sometimes life has a way of putting you in the right place at the right time. It isn't easy, but it's where the healing can begin. Her words hung in the air like a fragile thread of hope. You have to be patient with each other, she added, her eyes compassionate and understanding. Healing takes time, it cannot be hurried. Sometimes you just need to listen, sometimes you need to speak, but most importantly, you need to be willing to hear the truth, no matter how painful. My son shifted slightly, his gaze drawn to the kindness radiating from the woman. I could see the wheels turning in his mind as he processed her words. I wished I could reach out and grab him, pull him back from the precipice of anger and disappointment. Thank you, I managed to say to her, though my voice trembled with uncertainty. I realize that I can't expect him to forgive me easily or trust me. All I can ask is for a chance to show him I want to understand." The woman offered a soft nod, seemingly satisfied for now. But as she moved away, I felt the weight of her advice settle onto my shoulders. Such wisdom felt both liberating and burdensome. Before we could fully absorb the impact of her words, my phone, still resting in my hand, buzzed again, a sharp reminder of my fractured past. I glanced at the screen, my heart sinking further as I saw my mother's name flash before me. It was as if the universe conspired to test my resolve, to peel back the layers of my courage. "I ask it her again?" My son asked, his voice tinged with a mix of curiosity and guardedness. I hesitated, the impending decision that lay before me feeling monumental. I started, but the words got lost in the quagmire of guilt. My past loomed like a dark specter, taunting me with the reminders of the life I had run from, the choices that kept me a prisoner in my own regret. "I don't want to hear about her," he interrupted, the pain evident in his voice. "I want to hear about you." In that moment, time seemed to stretch, fragile and precious between us. The rain fell harder, and I prepared to strip back my layers, the hurt, the fear, the legacy of my choices, and stand raw and open before him. But as I opened my mouth to share my truth, a peculiar intensity flickered in his eyes, one that held both anger and a flicker of something unspoken. "Maybe it's not just her you need to apologize to," he said, his voice steady as he spoke words I hadn't expected. My heart raced, uncertainty flooding through me, clashing against the bravery I longed to unearth. What did he mean? I thought I had come to face my past. His gaze locked onto mine like a beacon, demanding that I confront not just the mother I had fled from, but what the absence of my choices had truly cost my son. And just as I opened my mouth to respond, a loud crack of thunder roared overhead, drowning out everything else. The world around us dimmed momentarily beneath the shadow of the storm, and within that darkness, the truth hung, suspended in the air, heavy with the weight of things unsaid and discoveries to be made. In that moment, as I prepared to dive deeper into the storm of my past, I wondered if this was the turning point, the moment where everything could change if we both found the courage to face it together. But would we? The wind howled, carrying the scent of rain-soaked earth and sadness heavy in the air. My son stood before me, a fragile barrier of anger and hurt, while the chaos around us felt like a tempest of unaddressed emotions. The thunder rumbled above as if echoing the fury within him, and I could see him wrestling with what lay beneath the surface, caught between wanting to explode and wishing to understand. "That I always thought you'd be different," he continued, fists clenched at his sides. "That you would actually care about how your choices affected me. But standing here, I see now that I was mistaken. You think coming back will fix everything, but it won't. You can't just erase the years away." Each word struck like a sharp blade, each syllable rooted in truth, and it pushed me backward into the shadows of guilt that loomed large in my heart. I stood frozen, the weight of his disappointment bearing down on me until I almost couldn't breathe. He was right, the wounds ran deeper than I had ever imagined. "That I am sorry," I whispered, feeling as if that single phrase was inadequate to hold the depth of my remorse. "I never meant to hurt you. My choices were born out of fear, not love. I am here now, ready to face whatever it takes to help you heal." He shook his head, a tear escaping down his cheek, the rain masking the salty evidence of his anguish. In that moment, I longed to reach out, to wrap him in my arms and shield him from the world's harshness. But I knew the trust one desired had to be earned, not demanded. "The truth is," he said, voice wavering, "I don't even know what I feel anymore. Your return shattered everything I thought I knew about my life. It's like suddenly being plunged into murky waters, confusion everywhere, and I'm just lost." The stranger, the woman who had shown us a glimmer of understanding, had stepped away, but her words lingered, echoing the possibility of healing through vulnerability. "If only we could muster just a little more courage to cut through the haze together. Can you give me a chance to show you who I am now?" I ventured, fighting the storm inside myself, wanting desperately to offer him a glimpse of what could be. "I don't expect you to trust me right away, but I hope to prove that I've changed. That I can be someone you. I don't know if I want you to be anyone to me." He shouted, the rawness of his pain breaking through the rain, splattering against my heart like cold droplets of reality. The intensity of his gaze pierced through me, and I wondered if I, too, could shatter like glass beneath the weight of our conversation. I took a step forward, not out of defiance but to show him I meant every earnest word. And that's okay, I said, raising my hands in surrender. I don't expect anything from you. I just want to be present, to listen to whatever you have to say, no matter how difficult. But I can't do that if you won't let me in. He paused, the muscles in his jaw twitching, as if he had been holding my words at bay while battling his own emotional waves crashing around him. I could see him grappling with a decision to fight back, deny the bridge I was trying to build, or to at least peer over the edge, to see if a connection was waiting for us on the other side. That I just want someone I can trust, he said, voice breaking, pain spilling through the cracks. But how can I trust someone who left me? Who chose to walk away? My heart clenched at the truth layered within his question. I had always known I needed to confront him about my absence, but hearing it spoken aloud felt unbearable. How could I mend what had been so carelessly broken? I was scared, I murmured, words tumbling out before I could catch them. I was running away from my own pain and fears. It was easier to cut ties than to face the truth of my wrongdoings. You were my greatest love, and I let my weakness win. I understand if you can't forgive me, but I want to try to make it right. I in the silence that followed, the rain softened as if even the universe was catching its breath. He shifted his weight, and I could feel the hesitation in his posture, the tension released just a fraction beneath the layers. Do you even know who I am? He asked suddenly, vulnerability cracking through his defensive armor. All this time, you've been living your life, while I was wondering who I even was without you. This opened up a whole other layer of truth I hadn't fully considered. I want to know, I replied, my heart racing with urgency. I want to understand everything about you, your hopes, your fears, your dreams. Please tell me it's not too late. As I spoke, I noticed a flicker of something in his eyes, a glimmer of curiosity, perhaps. But just as quickly, it dimmed under the weight of uncertainty. How can I believe you? How can I trust you without any real reason? And before I could muster an answer, a shadow moved behind him, a figure emerging from the rain, stepping into the foggy outline of our confrontation. The world around us held its breath as time seemed to stop. But there, framed against the storm's fury, stood someone who turned my heart over in my chest, a ghost of another past I thought I had locked away forever. My mother had arrived, threading her way through an angry downpour, and her presence shattered our moment like glass separating us from future possibilities. She couldn't possibly know the confrontation brewing, the delicate reconciliation reaching for air, but there she was, a living reminder of the past I had wanted to escape. Why are you here? My son asked, shooting me a nervous glance before turning his attention to her, the very embodiment of the life that had torn our family apart, and in that chaotic moment, every hope I had dared to entertain unraveled. The rain fell heavier, each droplet a reminder of the tension clinging in the air like fog. My mother's presence loomed large, casting a shadow over the fragile thread I'd tried to weave between my son and me. Her eyes held a mixture of surprise and unease, as if she had ventured out into the storm only to discover she, too, would be swept into chaos. Mom? My son's voice wavered, confusion palpable. He looked back and forth between us, searching for understanding in the tempest around him. Why are you here? I echoed, voice strained as if the very questioning exposed the churning dread within me. I'd spent years trying to distance myself from her influence, trying to rewrite the narrative of my life without the shadows of my past looming overhead. I came to find you, she replied, her voice trembling like a fragile leaf caught in the wind. I felt something was wrong. I couldn't just sit back and do nothing. I could see the glimmer of desperation in her gaze, a flicker that triggered long-buried emotions. Memories of her own struggles began to play like an old film reel in my mind, filled with moments of heartbreak and disappointment. Joyful occasions turned sour and dreams slowly twisted into nightmares. Do you even know what you're interrupting? My son's words bit sharply, the protection of my heart against the sharpness of his tone reflecting his rawness. You have no idea how hard it's been. You both left, and now you expect me to believe it's all going to magically change. I felt the walls around my heart tighten, but then a surprising surge of bravery echoed back at his words, prompting me to step forward. You're right, honey, we don't have the right to ask anything of you. But please believe this isn't meant to hurt you. I want to form a connection with you, even amidst this chaos. With my mother standing before us, her presence an unwelcome storm in our fragile moment, it felt as though I was pulled into the whirlpool of our shared history, mixing both of our pains into a single, torturous reality. She raised her hands, palms outward, attempting to calm the rising tension. I didn't know about your struggles, about how bad things had become. I thought I could give you space to heal, but I see now that maybe I was wrong. Your wrongs don't concern me, my son snapped, shaking his head defiantly, but there was a flicker of something deeper in his eyes. Beneath the anger, a whisper of anguish echoed. His pain resonated in my chest, reminding me of the void I had created during those years of absence. I had hoped that coming back would serve as some form of redemption, but all it seemed to do was widen the chasm. Can we just drop this? He turned his back to us, looking into the storm, shoulders tense. It doesn't matter anyway. None of your apologies matter. I'm tired of talking about the past. It changes nothing, please, it matters, I begged softly. This is all I can offer, the truth and the opportunity to learn who we are as people now, despite what we used to be. I cannot change the past, but I can face it. With my heart pounding against the walls of uncertainty, something caught his attention. A gust of wind swept through, blowing debris around us like confetti caught in a twisted whirlwind, a momentary distraction breaking the solemnity. He paused for a breath, looking back toward the ground where remnants of our shared history pooled at our feet. That I just don't know how to trust either of you, he whispered, vulnerability unthreading the fabric of his anger. Every time you both show up, it hurts more. I don't even know who I am anymore. The words hung in the air between us, simmering with unshed tears and uncertainty. I stepped closer, willing the warmth of sincerity to cross the expanse between us. Then let us discover it together. All I ask is one chance to try, I offered, the urgency clawing at my throat. Just then, my mother broke the silence, vulnerability shining in her eyes. You're not alone in this pain, sweetheart, she said gently. I know what it's like to feel lost in a world of fluctuating identities. I thought leaving would be the answer, but it wasn't, and I see now, it tore us further apart. His gaze flicked from her back to me as if weighing our words, searching for sincerity in the heartache we shared. Why should I believe you? He murmured, although the tremor in his voice suggested a crack of hope. Because the past doesn't have to define our future, I said, feeling the intensity of the moment crescendo. We can write a new chapter together. But we have to be open to it. Just as a glimmer of possibility began to light the murky waters swirling in his heart, the ringing of a phone shattered the silence. The sound was sharp, intrusive, and eerily sufficient to remind us of life moving forward, even amidst chaos. He pulled his phone from his pocket, staring at the screen. A message flashed, and I could see him pale as if the wind had slapped him across the face. It can't be. As I stepped closer, curiosity and dread merging in my gut, I glimpsed his phony an unknown number, but an unmistakable sender. My heart sank as I read the words displayed in stark clarity, please come home. We need to talk. I'm worried about you. It was a plea, and within it, a darkness threatened to unravel the fragile connection we'd begun to forge. I felt the world tilt beneath me. Had I inadvertently opened a Pandora's box of revelations that could tear us apart once again? The storm softened into a mere drizzle as tension cracked through the bond I'd fought so hard to mend. My son looked up, terror swimming in his eyes, and in that instant, I knew the battle for his trust had barely begun. The rain continued to fall, a soft murmur that seemed to mock the intensity of the moment. The sensation of dread grew within me as my son stood frozen, his gaze glued to the screen of his phone, an unyielding storm brewing within his mind. I could almost hear the gears turning, his thoughts racing forward to places I couldn't follow. My heart ached, torn between wanting to reassure him and feeling the weight of fear gnawing at my core. What does it say? I asked, voice barely above a whisper. He turned to me, his expression a mixture of anguish and confusion, as if he were searching for answers in the chaos that had become our reunion. "It's from my dad," he said finally, the words slicing through the air like a sharp wind. "He wants me to go home." Home? The word felt foreign on my tongue, a nostalgic echo that wielded power to tear at memories I'd long sought to mend. "Honey, you don't have to go back if you don't want to, but what if he needs me?" The tone in his voice cracked, revealing the vulnerability beneath his hardened exterior. It was as though I could see his heart laid bare before me, struggling against the questions that teetered on the brink of betrayal. What if he wants to talk about everything? The thought of him standing before a father whose presence had been riddled with disappointment felt like a slap to my senses. I had fought for my son's connection, only for the specter of my past to rise once again, threatening to shove him back into the very darkness we were trying to escape. "Your father hasn't been a constant," I stumbled before recollecting myself, a knot forming in my throat. "You don't owe him anything." "Not now, not after everything, but I should at least hear him out," he muttered, desperately clutching the phone as if it held the last thread connecting him to a sense of stability. What if he's really worried? Maybe he's changed. A sadness washed over me as I watched him wrestle with loyalty and heartbreak. It was a battle I remembered all too well, encasing him in a fog of hope and disappointment that intertwined with the love he still held for the man who had hurt him. His voice dropped, barely audible over the drumming rain as he whispered, "What if he is waiting for me to come back? What if everything finally makes sense?" I looked to my mother, whose face mirrored my turmoil as she reached out, placing a hand gently on his shoulder, an unexpected badge of support. "Sometimes, we think we know what we want," she said softly, her eyes glistening with a past that mirrored his own doubts. "But sometimes the truth can reveal a much darker path." "He's your father," I countered, wishing I could pull him from the clutches of a mirage. "You owe it to yourself to be cautious. Things are never as they seem." The phone vibrated in his palm, reminding us of the urgency of the moment. With trembling fingers, he pressed the button to light up the screen once more. "I have to reply. No." The word escaped my lips far too quickly. A raw panic rippled through my body, and the look on my son's face morphed into one of uncertainty, betraying his hope and anger. "What do you mean no? Are you going to tell me how to live my life now?" His voice rang with frustration. "You left me to fend for myself. Now I just want to know if there's a chance for some kind of normality." "It's not that simple," I pleaded, my spine straightening against the reality of raising my voice. "You don't know what he's hiding. The parts of him he may never reveal are the parts that will haunt you. I'm not trying to control you. I just don't want him to hurt you again." He turned away from me, breezes swirling as if the world itself resonated with our turmoil. "Maybe getting hurt is part of this, Mom. Maybe I need to find out who I really am, and I can't do that if I'm stuck between the two of you." My heart sank, the realization hitting me with the weight of despair. He was right in some way. Turning away from our shared pain might just delay his healing, but every path seemed fraught with peril. "I just want you to be safe," I uttered, desperation tangled with love as I stood helpless. Against the curling waves of understanding crashing between us, the phone vibrated again, this time with an incoming call. It buzzed ominously in his hands as we both regarded it like an approaching train, its distant whistle growing louder. "Please," I implored again, moving closer, "whatever happens, know that I'm here for you. And I will always be here, ready to help you navigate whatever storms lie ahead." He hesitated, the inner battle fraught with turmoil, the call echoing as an unrelenting reminder of choices dragging at the knots in his heart. "I need to answer," he said, the tremor in his voice betraying his resolve. Steeling himself, he swiped the screen, lifting the phone to his ear. That moment, the life I envisioned for us felt like a ship drifting further away. As he took a deep breath, preparing for the words he would once again cast into the uncertain wind, darkness loomed just beyond the light of hope. "Hello? Dad?" he said slowly, and I held my breath, the uncharted waters of the conversation we had tried to avoid rushing in around us. The answer was still following, the call of destiny, an answer I couldn't prepare for, a revelation that would reverberate through all our hearts. The cold drizzles fractured any fading rays of warmth I had felt earlier, enveloping the evening in a shroud of uncertainty. My son's voice crackled through the receiver, and I could hear the slight tremble as it formed the words that would shape the contours of our lives once more. "I am here." A pause. "Yeah, I got your message." My heart sank even deeper as I saw his expression shift, the mixture of hope and dread intertwining like thorn vines. I stood as a mere observer, a specter haunting the edges of this pivotal moment. The rain began to fall heavier, almost drowning out his father's responses. I felt the choking weight of despair creeping up my throat, each heartbeat a reminder of the looming abyss that I don't know if I should. He whispered into the phone, eyes darting, searching for clarity in the chaos. "I mean, things have been difficult." I wanted to reach out, to touch his arm, to communicate the fear swirling in my chest, but an invisible wall seemed to encase him. Each word he spoke felt like it was trickling through my fingers, and I watched as my mother leaned closer, her brow knitted in concern. It was instinctual for her to want to protect him, a maternal instinct that transcended time and enveloped us both in a sorrowful embrace. My son nodded, though I could tell it was as much to assure himself as it was a response to his father. "I understand," he murmured, as if grappling with the consequences of a choice he hadn't yet made. "But I just don't know if I can trust you." A flicker of hope danced in my chest. Maybe he was still the same child who once clung to me for reassurance, not too far gone in his search for answers. For every storm, there were moments of clarity that illuminated the heart. Perhaps this was one of them. "Can you?" his father replied, the voice trailing off like smoke in the wind. The dialogue wove back and forth, and for a moment, I felt the world mute around us, the rain becoming a distant backdrop to this fractured connection. My son tossed despairing glances toward me, his lips paling as he journeyed deeper into the conversation, every word beckoning him like a siren. I longed to remind him that strength often lay in silence, in walking away from voices that could poison the heart, but my own experience screamed within me, urging caution. "Think it through," I silently implored him, my heart a perplexing jumble of concern. Each second felt like an eternity, and as my son's jaw clenched, I could see him battling the demons that piled onto his shoulders. "I might consider meeting, but you need to know that I'm not the same boy you left," he finally uttered, voice steadying as he held the phone tighter, determination entwining with anger. "You hurt me, Dad. That's not going to disappear." The silence on the other end was tangible, fragile, as if both were trapped in the shadows of the past. I could only watch, my impossibly distant heart yearning for his courage to be rewarded. And then the conversation took an unexpected turn. "You're going to have to prove it to me," my son continued, his voice solidifying. "You can't just say things have changed. You need to show me." My heart surged with pride, an unexpected flicker igniting the shadows. Was he ready to demand the respect he deserved? The rain drummed harder against the rooftop, yet it became a mere echo in the backdrop of his bold assertion. "I deserve better, and if you want to be in my life, you need to do better." There was a hesitation at the other end, and for a moment, it seemed as if time had stopped, leaving both of them to absorb the weight of those words. Then came the unimaginable, a sudden shout raw and filled with panic. "You're just going to abandon us again? Don't think I won't track you down. You can't get away from your family." I nearly stumbled backward, drawn back to the memories of betrayal, dread spiraling within me. My son turned pale, shock flashing across his features before resolute determination hardened them again. "Listen," he said, voice less steady now as it trembled against the tide of emotion. "You don't get to make demands anymore. I have a choice." Now the line went dead, and I felt every fragile thread tying us to our past thrumming painfully in response. In the silence that followed, I dared to step closer, longing to wrap my arms around him, but he recoiled, his expression hardening, not out of anger but rather out of sheer terror. "Mom, what if I need to know?" he stammered, panic creeping into his voice, echoing the sentiment buried deep within me. "What if he's not who I thought he was? What if I can't handle the truth, whatever it is?" I urged gently, stepping forward to bridge the distance. "Well, face it together." I extended my hand, hoping he'd take the next step toward understanding, toward protection against the chaos the world presented, and then, a shattering moment, a sudden, loud crash from the street drew my attention from the steady rise of our shared fear. We both turned toward the window, witnessing a scene we couldn't have anticipated, a flash of tail lights followed by a metallic screech. "Mom!" my son exclaimed, as fear drenched his voice, jolting us from our contemplative state. What was that? The sound reverberated in the air like a blast of thunder, deepening the storm that brewed within our hearts. And as we rushed toward the window, that sliver of hope that had begun to bloom was swallowed whole by uncertainty, the future just beyond our reach, forever drawn closer yet always out of focus. The shadows danced against the rain-soaked pavement as we peered through the window, breathless and unsure. The street outside felt alien, swallowed in the gray haze of evening, punctuated only by the frantic blue and red strokes of emergency lights that flashed like a sinister heartbeat. A car rumpled metal and shattered glass lay crumpled against a lamppost like a discarded doll, its fierce presence a reminder of life's fragility. What if someone was hurt? My son whispered the words into the confining darkness, his eyes wide mirrors reflecting concern and dread. That I don't know, I admitted, the weight of uncertainty wrapping itself around us like the cold tendrils of the night. I tried to impose calm upon the chaos swirling in my heart, yet the shockwave reverberated within me, conjuring memories of past tragedies that clawed at my mind. Instinctively, I reached for him, grounding myself in the warmth of his shoulder. "You shouldn't go out there," he said, almost to himself. I could see the heaviness in his heart too. It seemed we had been unwittingly drawn into a storm much greater than our own. The wail of sirens tore through the night, shattering the tranquility that remained in the corners of our home. I felt paralyzed, torn between a desire to shield him and the instinctive pull of our shared curiosity. But then he moved, pushing gently away from my embrace, an urge to confront the world, to witness firsthand the chaos of the outside. "Wait," I called after him, fear threading its way through my voice. My breath felt shallow, panic creeping through every corner of my being. What was pulling him forward, seeking answers we hadn't yet gathered? "Mom, it's just outside," he replied, tone defiant but with an undercurrent of anxiety. "I need to see." As he reached for the door, something within me snapped. "You don't have to," I exclaimed, watching him freeze, his resolve wavering. The sudden vulnerability exposed a raw nerve, a connection that pulsed alive between us, and all at once, the revelation struck me: "Your father, what if this is about him?" The thought slipped unbidden from my lips, urgency wrapping around the words. His face shifted, uncertainty flickering like a candle's flame caught in a draft. What if this is just another way for him to reach out? I stepped closer, the gravity of the moment sinking deeper. "If you go out there, if you make this any more real, you might end up giving him the power to hurt you all over again. You understand that, right?" His jaw set, determination coiling around his heart like a protective barrier. "I'm tired of being afraid, Mom. I need to see this for myself. I need to know if he's trying to come back." "Sometimes, not knowing is safer," I protested, the sorrowful weight of my own experiences heavy upon my chest. "Sometimes, ignorance is a shield, but it's not a shield." He snapped back, anger and desperation twisting together, vibrant and raw. "It's a prison. I can't keep living like this." The fire in his voice startled me, igniting a growing realization of how far he had come on this emotional journey. Yet, the thought of that familiar shadow hovering on the edges of our lives threatened to extinguish any glimmer of progress we'd made, and with that fear came an urge to hold him back, to keep him close. But as I searched his eyes, I saw something else, a longing, a fierce resolve perhaps inherited from both of us, a hunger for truth, no matter how bitter it might taste. With a hesitance born of love and fear, I finally relented. "Fine, but you won't go out there alone." His surprise momentarily dimmed his fire, and then silence filled the space between us, a moment of shared grudging acceptance. As we stepped out into the storm, the somber weight of the outside world cocooned us in a hush of anticipation. The air was charged, echoing with unspoken words and possibilities yet unfathomed. We neared the street, the flashing lights morphing the remnants of the accident into a surreal tableau. Paramedics rushed by, their movements a blur of urgency. My son hesitated, his earlier bravado washed out by the solemnity of the scene. We stood at the edge, hovering on the precipice of our decisions, an unspoken question echoing in the void, and then, in that moment of uncertainty, a figure emerged from the darkness, a silhouette shrouded in the ambiguity of night, watching, waiting. My heart seized in my chest as the familiar face of his father carved through the chaos like a knife through flesh. "Mom. Is it?" My son's voice broke, a mix of hope and fear mixing into a potent blend that caused the air to thicken. Before I could respond, before I could shield him from the flood surging back into our lives, the world seemed to pause in that heart-stopping moment. I watched as my son's wide eyes locked onto his father, emotions cascading uncontrollably like a storm unbidden. And that single breath hung suspended, taut against the cusp of revelation, anchored by the unshakable truth that this was only the beginning of something neither of us could predict. The rain continued to pour down, soaking us both as my son stood frozen, rooted to the asphalt, a mixture of shock and disbelief etched across his features. As I watched, something shifted in his expression. Fear surrendered to determination, woven tightly into the fabric of the past had been grappling with. "Dad?" The word slipped past his lips, barely a whisper but carrying the weight of 1,000 unsaid feelings. It was a bridge stretching across a chasm of a childhood lost. His father turned, the shadows playing tricks on my mind as sunlight caught the hint of vulnerability in his eyes, the same green as my son's. It shattered me, this manifestation of our intertwined lives, all too familiar yet painfully distant. "Please don't," I whispered, my heart racing as I tried to shield him from the harsh reality unfolding before us. But before I could pull him away, he stepped forward, driven by the primal need for connection, the urgent desire to seek answers that had always eluded him. "Are you okay?" he asked cautiously, his voice crackling with uncertainty. "Yeah," his father's voice faltered, eyes shifting uneasily. The tension hung thick in the air, and I could feel my son's heart racing, a drumbeat echoing through the rain. This wasn't just about forgiveness or regret, this was about grappling for a sense of identity amidst the maelstrom of love and loss. A moment elicited a glimmer of recognition, one that faded into uncertainty. I watched as my son's face shifted, hope mingling with fear, wrestling with the bitterness of abandonment that had been gnawing at him. His father took a step closer, drenched and vulnerable, tethered by years of silence hanging heavily between them. "I didn't come to hurt you. I saw the accident, and what does that matter now?" My son's voice clashed with the rain, sharp and raw. "You've hurt me enough before. You never cared then." "Please," his father implored, desperation laced with the tones of a man stripped bare. "I've changed, I'm trying to change." I held my breath, every instinct inside me screaming to intervene. But then I saw something in my son's eyes, a flicker of uncertainty, a glimmer of possibility. He was standing at the crossroads of identity and pain, with the ghost of his past swirling like the rain around us. "Why should I believe you?" He took another step forward, challenging yet yearning for a response, every muscle in his frame inching towards a connection he had yearned for but feared he would never receive. I could see his father's hesitation, the chasm was vast and littered with broken promises. "Because I'm here. Because I realize now that running was my biggest mistake, something I never wanted for you." But my son's anger flared, drowning out the pain with the clarity of rejection. "You don't get to choose when to show up. You don't get to play father now, not after all this. You abandoned me, son. You don't get to call me that." The thunder outside rumbled menacingly, echoing the conflict inside. His father's shoulders sagged, caught in the crossfire of his own making. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but please let's just talk. I'll listen this time, I can change. Just give me a chance, and what if this is just another lie?" The sorrow echoed within them, two hearts laced with shared history, both desperately grasping for something they had lost. "I can't promise it'll be easy." The trembling sincerity in his voice made my heart ache. "But we can work through it together. Together." The weight of that word lingered, a thread of hope desperately woven into the fabric of our tragedy, but I could see my son's armor beginning to crack under the weight. Could love truly bloom again from the abyss of betrayal? We have time. The rain drizzled lightly now, slowing, almost contemplative. You both need to be ready to listen, to understand what made you who you are. I stepped closer, wanting to offer solace, wanting to shield my boy as he pointedly looked at the figure that had shaped him, both in absence and presence. Mom, I can't do this without you. He finally turned towards me, my heart soaring as he sought strength from the one who stood in the fray, ready to protect him from further hurt. I don't want to be caught in the past forever. A deep breath imbued with defiance escaped his lips. I know. I reached out, warmth flooding into the space between us as the years of separation traced delicate lines across my heart. You should never have to fight alone. We faced the storm together or not at all. A renewed determination flickered in his eyes, revealing the boy who once looked to me for guidance, now teetering on the threshold of adulthood. In that breath of acceptance, the invisible lines binding us tightened. I felt the echo of my own decisions rippling outward. Will you come with me? He nodded toward his father, extending the tentative possibility of reconciliation. There was an undeniable symmetry, a pull that rewove our destinies in the most unexpected ways. Of course. I intertwined my fingers with his, a shield against the storm, the past and future merging into one heartbeat. We can face this together. Together, we stepped forward, two halves rejoining as we bridged the gap toward his father. The tension palpably softened, replaced with the quiet, sobering realization that every storm could bring growth, if only we allowed ourselves to learn from it. I'm still scared, he admitted softly for the first time, finally freeing the words that had locked away in his heart for so long. That I am too, I whispered back, gripping his hand tighter. But whatever happens, we have each other. And sometimes, that's the bravest thing of all. The rain began to fade, leaving behind a soft cleansing, and with it came the relief of acceptance. The foundations, once shaken and fragile, now felt steadfast as we took that final step, standing under the sobering glow of reality that awaited us, together. In that moment, I realized how the past had carved out undeniable lessons, leaving scars no longer viewed as burdens, but reminders of how strong we'd become, and more importantly, who we could still turn out to be. As his father took a breath to speak, I held my son's gaze, ever ready to anchor him. Alone we had floundered, but together we were swimming toward the light, and there, in the bittersweet aftermath of a storm that had not yet passed, I knew this: sometimes, the heart's bravest act is to imagine a future together, despite the past that has shaped each of us, because love thrives in the most unexpected places, and in the aching silence before the dawn, we dared to dream again.